Hey guys, it's Matt. I have stated in my previous video that I want to talk about music and all aspects of music and build a community where, we all come together and we just talk about music and what music means to us. So, one thing I want to talk about in this video is album art. It's really cool to see a record and something that really just jumps out, stands out, and you just go, oh, I have to have it. I bet it's an awesome album. Anyway, however, I want to talk about a controversial album art from one of the world's most popular rock and roll bands. This band is none other than Led Zeppelin and their album Houses of the Holy. So this came out in 1973. Now, you might notice something a little strange about this album. And yeah, there's naked kids on the cover. Kind of odd, right? Anyway, so for the record, this is not trashing Led Zeppelin. This is not talking about the music or anything. This is one of my favorite Led Zeppelin albums. I do enjoy a lot of the songs. Maybe a song or two is a little corny, but for the most part, this is a very musically inspiring album for me. So, what I want to talk about is how does a band put out an album like this and and get away with it? The answer is they didn't. So upon the release of this album, it was banned in several places, including the United States, for several years. The artist was Aubrey Powell, who's in charge of the art direction, who is a longtime collaborator with famous album artist Storm Thorgerson, who did Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Mars Volta, all that stuff. Okay, now, would this kind of album art fly today? Probably not. You couldn't get away with this. But back then, in the 70s, I was not alive around then. Maybe it was a different time. Maybe people were just taking way too many drugs, But the album was inspired by the ending of an Arthur C. Clarke novel, in literature, which, if anyone knows anything about literature, it can be quite controversial. Just take a look at Stephen King's It. You know which part of that I'm talking about. And it is a little disturbing. But like I said, art and music is completely subjective. And where we see something inappropriate, others may see beauty, or others may see metaphors, or others may see complete, just no, we can't do this. So how I interpret the art is the album title, which is nowhere to be found on the actual record packaging, Houses of the Holy. So when I think of holy, I think of purity, and it's, something that's holy is pure in its most purest form, righteousness. And when I think of pure, I think of children. Children are innocent. Children have no shame. Children do not recognize, sexual boundaries. They have no knowledge of that. Now, one thing about the art is there's no depiction of anything sexual, any kind of genitalia, shown. You can see their little butts, which I think is kind of pushing it in a way. But when I think of, the album title, Houses of the Holy, and seeing that art, I think it really kind of, explains that. So again, this is a very controversial album cover. Is it one of my favorite album covers? No, not really. I like the colors, I like the tones, but that's really about it. But when we look, and this is just one of many examples, and there are much worse examples of album art out there, which I will talk about in upcoming videos. But like I was saying, it is subjective, and music and art obviously go hand in hand, and it is quite subjective. But what was acceptable then may not be acceptable now. So, obviously, with this in mind, this art, I think this album cover was kind of meant to stand out and to get people's attention, maybe for the publicity of the album. Now, do I think it was right to exploit children for that sake, to maybe generate album sales? Because we all know that how many metalheads have bought Slayer albums or Megadeth albums or Cannibal Corpse albums just because, oh, the artwork is sick. But with that being said, do I think it's right to exploit children for that purpose? Not really. Is this one of my favorite? Do I agree with this album cover? Not quite. I would have done something different personally. But again, this has nothing to do with Led Zeppelin, the band themselves. This is the person that did the art for it. When you think about it, taking pictures of naked kids, that's pretty weird, in my opinion. But for the sake of art, again, I personally kind of draw the line. But again, like I said, I would have done something different. So, with that being said, is this bad album art? Well, personally, I don't think it's the greatest. I think there's other things that could have been done. But then again, there are far worse things that had been done. For example, Nirvana Nevermind. That's a pretty controversial album cover, right? So with that being said, I really want to hear, if you're watching this video, I want to hear your opinions, what you think, how you interpret it, maybe how you see it, whether you agree with me or not, or disagree. Please keep it respectful. After all. But with that being said, I hope you guys have had a good weekend and continue to enjoy your weekend. And if you thought this video was great, like it. Again, comment. And if you want to, subscribe to me. I will continue to put out content and more videos discussing these same things. So anyway, y'all have a good night. Peace. And I will see you next time. And until then, keep rocking.